did they not use eagles to take the ring to Mordor in The Lord of the Rings? Let's dive right in. Now, one of the biggest reasons of that is if we look at Tolkien, he was a devout Catholic, and a lot of the inspiration he took was from Scripture. So we see in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, we find a lot of that in the Scripture. Now, the biggest thing is the wizards, whether it's Gandalf or Saruman, they are from the Mire. Now, the Mire were spiritual beings that came on Earth and had specific purposes to help mankind. Now, we see the same case as of the angels. The angels have specific purposes to help mankind. Ultimately, the word is anglos or anglion, and it's the Greek word messenger, and they have a special message. Now, they have a special purpose. Throughout the Old Testament, we see them help mankind, whether it is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when they were in the fiery furnace. There was an angel there. We see Daniel when he was in the lion's den. He said there's an angel that stopped the lion's mouth. So there also in the New Testament, we see many examples. Peter is escorted out of the prison cell by an angel. Jesus said that he could ask for thousands of angels to deliver him, to save him, if he wanted to. He could ask the Father to summon angels. So there are many different purposes angels have. They bring good tidings. They bring messages. In Revelation, they even preach the gospel. So ultimately, God doesn't need us. God uses us because he wants us to serve him, but he doesn't really need us. He could use angels for many of the different tasks and purposes. And that's why we should never take for granted the opportunity that God uses us. Now, Tolkien took this very thing and kind of put it in the same realm of Lord of the Rings. Gandalf and Saruman and many other wizards had special powers and could do different things. Ultimately, Gandalf could have took the ring to Mordor. He did not need Frodo. He did not need the hobbits. He did not need man. But they helped man, and there are certain instances where they will interfere and help them, whether it's using his powers and ultimately calling the eagles. So that's the thing that we have to see there is if Gandalf wanted to, he could have took the ring all by himself. He didn't need, he could have just got an eagle, took the ring, and that was it. But the story is about mankind redeeming himself. It's also about the good in this world, fighting against evil. So they're there to help and they're there to guide them. But if they helped and intervened every single time, what's the whole purpose of having mankind and the hobbits take the ring or the elves take the ring? It's ultimately they're there to guide them. And Tolkien, he was frustrated by this because there was many times where people asked him about it. There was even an interview where he was reading a letter where someone's saying, why didn't they just take eagles? Why didn't they just take the ring to Mordor that way? And he said, shut up. So he obviously was frustrated by people kept asking it. And I think if people read the scripture and see the role of angels, and I think that's a problem a lot of people struggle with because they haven't read the Bible. So that's why it might be difficult to understand the role of the wizards and the role of Gandalf and the role of ultimately the eagles. Because like I said, God used a donkey. So there are many instances in The Lord of the Rings where animals have a specific purpose. But if we use animals every single time, then why do we need man to do it? So that's the main thing you need to grasp. And that's why I always encourage people, whether it's reading Narnia, reading Lord of the Rings, you have to remember, as uncomfortable it might be for a lot of people. I know atheists don't like when you bring this up and they get upset and they get agitated when you say, why you always have to bring the scriptures into it? Why you always have to bring God into it? But in a way, it helps you understand certain things. I remember even as a kid, I never struggled with of why eagles couldn't take the ring to Mordor. I didn't struggle with why Gandalf didn't help all the time, because ultimately it's up to mankind to save them, and God is there to help along the way. But it was man has to do a lot of that work, because again, if it was all done by the wizards and the eagles, then you could say, well, did you really do anything? And again, the same instance with us in our walk with Christ. If we always are dependent on an angel rescuing us, then it makes life a lot easier because like, oh, I don't really have to worry. I don't really have to live this way because I know an angel's going to rescue me. And I think it's important to understand there are going to be times, again, if you read scripture, where angel doesn't always rescue people. James, he was beheaded earlier before Peter, and Peter was rescued. So you might wonder, okay, why didn't the angels rescue James? Because ultimately, God has a plan. There's a reason why, and it's God's will. So there's instances where, okay, the angels saved this situation. Why didn't they save that situation? We see the angels help Daniel and help Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We've seen them rescue them out of the fiery furnace and rescue them out of the lion's den, but they didn't rescue Jesus off the cross. So you have to think there. If we think all the time angel is going to fill that role, then it's going to make you think like, well, do I really need to live a certain way? And I think that ultimately there's a certain point with the hobbits and the men, they weren't dependent on always like, oh, the eagles are going to bail us out, or Gandalf is always going to bail us out. Gandalf, when he left, when he went to go fight Balrog, that was a huge burden put upon the fellowship because they realized, okay, now it's up to us to continue and fulfill the mission. So they from very early on, they weren't able to rely on Gandalf, and it's strategic. But then remember, there was a time when they needed help, and Gandalf came later on. And the same way, the eagles have a specific purpose, and that's why I encourage you just to read scripture as well, because you're going to find a lot of those answers, whether it's in The Lord of the Rings and Narnia and other great works of literature that were inspired by the Bible. And Tolkien was a devout Catholic, and he referenced a lot of times of that throughout his life. So hopefully that answered the question there of why the Eagles didn't take the ring to Mordor very early.